The judge attacked Melly and his legal team in the midst of the courtroom, turning his bond hearing into a full-fledged brawl.
I didn't ask for it. I don't understand your continued behavior, speaking out of turn, yelling at someone that's not true.
Truth about this courtroom drama is what transpired in that courtroom. Did this heated altercation ruin Melly's chances of freedom after 6 years in prison with tensions at an all-time high and the death penalty hanging over his head? Let's keep it a buck about who YNW Melly is actually born as Jamal. Demons. Maurice the DA's office claims that Melly and his boy Cortland Henry, YNW Portland, allegedly bodied Williams and Thomas inside a whip in Miramar, Florida, back in October 2018. This young rapper has been in prison since February 2019 and is facing serious charges, including 2 counts of first-degree murder. He attempted to play it off as a drive-by, but his first trial was unsuccessful. When the jury couldn't agree in July 2023, Melly's legal team had been working hard to get him released on bail before the next court date. This bail hearing we're covering is Melly's second attempt at pre-trial release since the mistrial, according to the documents. His defense team has been preparing this motion since November 2024, claiming that crazy things have changed since he was first booked. Let's examine what truly took off in that courtroom on May 6, 2025. Judge David Porter began the hearing by going over the earlier motions pertaining to Melly's case. The atmosphere was tense as both parties prepared to make their case. Melly's defense team, which included lawyers Mr. Benjamin and Miss Liberty, presented a daring plan to persuade the judge to allow their client to touch the road.
Page 4, this is David Porter versus Jamal Demons, 19-1872 CF10A, 23-10594 CF10A. We've got Ms. Collins, Mr. Griffiths, Mr. Silvershine present for the state. I've got Mr. Lee, Mr. Adelson, Mr. Benjamin.
When the defense attempted to introduce testimony from Dr. Cuthbert, an expert witness they had reportedly recently added to the team, things became heated. The prosecution, however, objected right away, claiming they had not received enough notice about the witness or any supporting documentation she might have prepared.
She was noticed saying less than 36 hours ago. She didn't testify as an expert. We don't know what documents we should rely upon. We don't know what materials she's given to review. We could apply no reports in order to know the substance of the testimony.
The defense's strategy for the hearing was drastically altered when the court concurred with the prosecution and dismissed Dr. Cuthbert's testimony, forcing them to depend solely on legal arguments rather than expert witnesses. Suppressed evidence from earlier in the case was a major point of contention during the hearings. John the Judge. On December 21, 2023, Murphy issued an order invalidating some evidence gathered by infringing upon Melly's constitutional rights. The prosecution attempted to use this suppressed evidence during the bail hearing, but the defense argued that it shouldn't be allowed.
I wouldn't call it an exclusionary rule, but I'm saying it should not be considered by the court because the court, the law in this case is it was suppressed and it cannot be used by the state in any way.
Judge Porter granted the defense the victory after a contentious back and forth, declaring that he would not examine evidence that Judge Murphy had previously rejected. This was a significant victory for Melly's team since it meant that certain potentially harmful evidence would not be taken into account when determining bail. The hearing then delved further into the specifics of which evidence had been withheld, dissecting many warrants pertaining to Melly's cell phone records, social media accounts, and other digital material that the prosecution had obtained. And the defense devoted a deal of effort to elucidating which particular pieces of evidence were still admissible and which were now prohibited by the suppression order. One of the most significant disclosures made during this conversation was that the location data of the cell site from October 26, 2018, the day of the alleged killings, was still relevant, meant that the judge could still take this potentially incriminating evidence into account when determining whether to grant bail.
Cell site location information remains in October 26, 2018. None of that is correct.
After resolving that, both sides put aside their disagreements regarding the great standard of proof evident that governs bail hearings for capital cases like Melly's under Florida law. If the presumption of guilt is high and the evidence of guilt is strong, the defendant may be detained without bail. However, even if those requirements are satisfied, the judge still has the authority to issue bail in certain situations. Using the remaining admissible evidence, including data, ballistics, and contradictions in co-defendant Cortland Henry's claims, the prosecution contended that they still had a strong case against Melly, even with the suppressed evidence removed from the table.
Certainly, Judge, and that's the case law provided in the court. There's actually a presumption of correctness as to Judge Murphy's order, that there was proof evident presumption grade. So really what the court is considering now is just effectively has that suppressed evidence that the court is now considering changed the state's position where proof evidence is no longer present. We believe that proof evidence still remains strongly present because, as the court was noting, all the information from the day of the homicide remains.
Defense retaliated with important points. First, they highlighted that the jury in the first trial was unable to reach a unanimous decision, indicating that the evidence was not as strong as the prosecution was claiming. They also accused Detective Mark Moretti of attempting to commit perjury and brought up new search warrants that were obtained following Judge Murphy's suppression order, implying that the prosecution was engaging in dishonest behavior.
I have some factors. I know because everybody has a couple. If I could, Judge, I believe that the rulings by Judge Murphy, that starting with the testimony of Michelle Boutros, which the Judge Murphy ordered the state that when she testifies, they cannot cross-examine her in any further proceedings. The state appealed it on a motion, on an appeal, a writ of some sort, I forgot which one, and that was, and I attached it to my supplement, the fourth denied their seeking relief on that issue.
After that, the defense presented their suggested terms for Melly's release, including a small financial bond and requirements that he remain in a new crib, refrain from wearing straps, wear a GPS ankle monitor, and be watched by security around the clock. They claimed that these requirements would ensure public safety. Melly keeps the legal system's integrity intact by appearing in court.
Mom, his grandma, his sister, his brother, his friends, his grandpa, they're all here supporting him. The special conditions are there, and that's what we get out of the different case law. That proof evident grade, that's one thing. You go to the second. Are there special conditions that we can put in place to protect those three things? Make sure he's present here.
The prosecution, however, wasn't buying it. They highlighted the gravity of the 2 first-degree murder charges and also brought up allegations of witness tampering against Melly. They said that the risk of flight was extremely high, given the possibility of the death penalty, pointing out that many nations wouldn't send him back if he faced the death penalty.
The concern is if he goes somewhere where he cannot be returned. As the court has repeatedly pointed out, Mr. Demmons is charged with the death penalty. Many countries in the world will not extradite back to the United States if they are facing the death penalty here.
The defense team fired back at these concerns by emphasizing that the proposed security measures would make it virtually impossible for Melly to bounce. They also noted that his record label was ready to put up the paper for any monetary bond that might be imposed.
As to your comment, in light of my client's popularity, we opted not to put somebody on to give you the address of where he'd be living at. We were going to proffer, I would give that in camera as far as where he would live at. He would be residing with his sister and with his brother. Give you the address. We would have the security detail. All of that can be given to you in camera. As far as the second amount, his record label would be if there was a monetary bond in place. His record label is agreeing to put the monetary bond up for him. So the financials would be covered because it would be coming from this record.
Judge Porter thanked both sides for their presentations as the hearing came to a close and stated that he would take his time to weigh all of the arguments before making a decision regarding Melly's bail request. He did not specify when he would make the decision, leaving Reed and Melly's team in the dark. The hearing's outcome has caused social media platforms to buzz with rumors that Melly had obtained a $500,000 bond for one of the 6 charges against him, but that this would not release him because he would need bonds for all charges to walk, according to XXL. This bail hearing is just one chapter in the complex legal saga that has followed YNW Melly for years. The stakes couldn't be higher. Temporary, freedom before trial, or continued lockup until September, with the death penalty still hanging over his head. The judge is expected to rule on the full bail request in the coming days. As of this recording, fans and legal observers are on pins and needles waiting to see if YW Melly will finally touch freedom after 6 years on lock, or if he will stay caged until his retrial in September. YNW. Melly's legal issues date back much further than many of his admirers may know, and the double murder allegations from 2018 are the reason for his current bid. In October 2015, Melly's run-in with the law began when he was just 16 years old. According to reports, he opened fire on 3 students near Vero Beach High School in Florida. Fortunately, no one was shot, but young Jamal Demons was charged with 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and 1 count of discharging a firearm in public.
I had went to jail for the school shooting thing I did.
School shooting thing?
Yeah, I was shooting by the school.
This early incident came back to haunt him during his come-up, when an interrogation tape from the arrest surfaced in 2023, showing a heated interaction between young Melly and the boys in blue in a 2019 interview. Melly was convicted and spent around a year in juvie, where he received his GED. Melly described a scenario involving a strap he had brought to school that was purportedly stolen by someone else to dissect the circumstances surrounding the school.
Yeah, and then it was just I thought the nigga had my gun, you know what I'm saying? I had brought it to school one day, then he told that I had that bitch at school, and then he fought. I guess he had his homeboys follow me. I guess when I went to the office to get searched, they came back, they doubled back and had the pistol. I ain't never pay attention to it because I was still trying to find out who the fuck had my shit till one day I found out they had the shit. And the next day I took it.
But it has frequently focused on gang affiliations. The prosecution has insisted that the evidence unequivocally demonstrates that the gunshots originated inside the vehicle, refuting the drive-by story the defendants were promoting. During the first trial, gang specialist Danny Polo testified regarding blood slang in Melly's case, claiming that Nelly is connected to the G-Shine Bloods and that the killings somehow helped the set. In August 2018, approximately 2 months prior to the murders, Melly allegedly asked his mother for a strap amid arguments with Sackchaser's family. Other texts indicated internal strife within the YNW crew over credit for their increasing success, with Sackchaser seemingly feeling marginalized despite being an original member. These texts also implied that the rapper had been recruited by gang members. One particularly damning piece of evidence was the text messages that were presented in court. The Instagram message that the prosecution cited purportedly contained the words, "I did that shit to someone named Peasy Gambino after the murders." The defense disputed this evidence, claiming that the spelling differed from Melly's typical typing style. One of the most significant events in the case against Melly, which has been complicated by many court battles and drama, occurred in December 2023, when Judge John Murphy revoked an order suppressing some information that had been obtained by breaching Melly's constitutional rights, as we discovered. This suppression order mostly affected evidence from beyond the immediate time frame of the murders, especially information that could have been used to establish gang links or other alleged motives during the bail hearing on May 6, 2025. Prosecutor Christine Bradley was removed from the case in October 2023 after it was alleged that she had concealed information regarding Detective Mark Moretti's credibility. According to testimony cited during the bail hearing, a witness named Michelle Brose allegedly saw Detective the drama was increased by Moretti's attempt to suborn perjury, which raised severe concerns about whether the inquiry was ongoing. The prosecution obtained new search warrants for much of the same material that had been suppressed by Judge Murphy's order, which Melly's defense team learned about in late April 2025. The warrants were allegedly signed by a different judge, Judge Bober, in March 2024, and were not shown to the defense until a few days prior to the bail hearing. The defense referred to it as forum shopping, and claimed that it was serious misconduct on the part of the prosecution.
Concerning this case, that appears was in their possession for at least a year, if not longer. And as you're looking at those, at the defendant's exhibit, positive one, okay. I want you to know that if you look at the docket sheet, it took us 4 hours to organize the warrants because they were commingled. Warrant number 1 had pages from warrant number 2 or 3. And it literally took Mr. Benjamin's judicial assistant, right, promoter, 4 hours to commingle all those pages because originally they came in so convoluted.
After the jury failed to reach a unanimous decision, the first trial, which began in June 2023, ended in a mistrial on July 22, 2023. According to subsequent reports, the jury was split 9-3 in favor of manslaughter convictions, rather than the first-degree murder charges the prosecution was pursuing. The deliberations were reportedly chaotic, with one juror allegedly using prosecutors said that Melly had used Blood's gang members to keep his ex-girlfriend Mariah Hamilton and her mother, Felicia Holmes, from testifying, allegedly through phone, calls and letters arranged through another inmate named Terrence Mathesy. Following the mistrial, additional charges were dropped against Melly in October 2023 for witness tampering. There were approximately 60 calls between Mathesy and YW. The defense has contested these witness tampering allegations, arguing during the bail hearing that they were conveniently timed to coincide with previous bail requests, and that they lacked legal merit because Mariah Hamilton was never actually legally required to testify at Melly's trial. Bortland used coded language to discuss keeping the witnesses from showing up. Another contentious aspect of the case involves Florida's, in 2023, Florida altered its capital penalty law to permit death sentences with an 84 jury recommendation, abandoning the requirement for anonymity, which is what the prosecution is attempting to use against Melly. This shift has sparked constitutional questions and may have an impact on Mellier's case if he is found guilty in the retrial. Throughout his attempt, Melly has insisted on his innocence, but he has typically refrained from making specific public statements. Prosecutors have even attempted to use the lyrics against him in court due to the violent content of his music, especially the song "Murder on My Mind," which was published before the actual killings.
Shit, I was in these apartments at first, Orangewood, and I moved to like Whisper Palm, some little like Mexican houses.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Interestingly, Melly disclosed that he had composed "Murder on My Mind" while incarcerated in a 2019 interview shortly after being released from a prior jail sentence.
So Murder on My Mind, when did you write that and what was going on in your head?
Forget about my ass.
All eyes will be on the bail decision in the coming days, as the retrial is now scheduled for September 10th, 2025. If Melly is granted full bail, he will experience freedom for the first time since February 2019, but under strict conditions. If not, he will remain in custody for at least 4 more months until the retrial begins. The artist and the aftermath was born Jamal Maurice Demons on May 1st, 1999, in Gifford, Florida, YNW. Melly was raised in difficult circumstances, but he has kept his background quiet. Interviews. As he puts it, nobody makes it out of there. Nobody even knows about it, I don't feel like. G-Ford, a little town about an hour from Orlando, isn't exactly known for generating stars. Mellier's musical career began in the 8th grade when he started making tracks with simple equipment. In an interview, he explained that his first recording setup was just a microphone in his room with a wig cap on it and a hanger in front of that. Despite the modest beginnings, Melly felt an instantaneous link to creating music, stating, "My craft was perfect. As I've always said, I had to stick with it." His musical tastes are more varied than most people would anticipate from a trap or drill rapper. He acknowledged artists like Young Thug, Lil Wayne Future, but he also showed his admiration for Michael Jackson, Ed Sheeran, Adele, and YouTube. demonstrating a wider range of musical tastes that would shape his melodic rap style.
I started rapping in 8th grade. I was listening like Michael Jackson, Lil Wayne, YouTube, Chris Brown, Lil Ed Sheeran.
Lil Ed Sheeran.
You know what I'm saying? I think he was out there now. I don't know.
Melly's distinct look and style first made him stand out in his high school setting. At first, everyone thought I was strange, but then I started dressing differently from everyone else and doing other things that made them like my sound and my appearance. His major break was the March 2017 release of Murder on My Mind, a song that would later acquire ominous importance because Murder on My Mind is still Melly's biggest hit. But the murder charges that followed the song highlight his unique melodic approach with sung vocals that hit different from the more aggressive delivery popular in Florida's rap scene at the time. YNW, with albums like his first commercial mixtape, I Am 2018, and We All Shine 2019, Melly kept expanding his library. The latter project featured the song Mixed Personalities, which featured Kanye West. In a 2019 interview, Melly talked about working with Kanye as awesome and super mega awesome cool, indicating that they had recorded multiple songs together beyond just Mixed Personalities. When asked about the unusual robot imagery in the music video, Melly explained that it represented his multiple personalities. This was a high-profile collaboration that signaled Melly's rising status in the industry just before his arrest.
It's just weird. It's basically just different. Like 3 heads, 3 different personalities.
Melly has promoted the idea of having several personalities throughout his career. In the same interview, he stated that he had 6 different personalities, but he would only disclose 3: Marcus and Melvin. He characterized Marcus as having a love side and coming out when Melly tries to fit in as a normal person, while Melvin is combative and doesn't play games.
How many personalities do you have?
6.
6?
Yeah.
But what are the 6?
I can only reveal 3.
It's important to remember that Melly was discussing his personalities long before he was arrested for murder. So even while some have theorized that these references to his personalities could be preparing for a possible insanity defense, it seems to be a true aspect of his artistic persona and perhaps his sense of self. Although Melly's music has continued to periodically decline, his imprisonment since February 2019 has had a substantial impact on his professional trajectory. While incarcerated, his first studio album, Melly vs. Melvin, was released in November 2019, and a follow-up album. When asked what sets him apart from other Florida rappers, he said that his August 2021 release, Just a Matter of Slime, was likely a compilation of recordings made either prior to his incarceration or during brief times of freedom. Melly highlighted his individuality, saying, "I'm not trying to be like anybody else. You can tell I'm from Florida, but you can't compare me to anybody." He made a special point of setting himself apart from what he dubbed the Kodak Black Kids, a group of musicians who were following in the footsteps of another well-known rapper from Florida.
Them niggas Kodak Black kids.
You said what?
They Kodak Black kids. I'm just different. I got my own shit going on.
You
My
do,
own little thing,
sonically,
you know?
for sure.
I ain't trying to be like nobody else. You could tell I'm from Florida, but you can't, you know what I'm saying? You can't compare me to nobody unless you compare me career-wise with Kodak.
Although some have conjectured that these references to Melly's personalities could be a prelude to a possible insanity defense, it's important to remember that Melly was discussing his personalities long before he was arrested for murder. It seems to be a true aspect of his artistic persona and perhaps his sense of self. Despite the occasional decline in Melly's music, his imprisonment since February 2019 has had a substantial impact on his career path. While incarcerated, he released his first studio album, Melly vs. Melvin, in November 2019, and a follow-up album titled, in response to the question of what sets him apart from other Florida rappers, Just a Matter of Slime, which was released in August 2021, was likely constructed from recordings made either prior to his imprisonment or during brief times of freedom. "I'm not trying to be like anybody else," Melly stressed, adding, "You can tell I'm from Florida, but you can't compare me to anybody." He specifically set himself apart from what he called Kodak Black Kids, a group of musicians who were following, in the footsteps of another well-known rapper from Florida,